Yeah, well, that one was the good one. Remember last scene.
Oh yeah.
Are you ready for
Mike
back?
from 101.
I'd put a note like this.
I saw it.
No, the electrons spill out of the bottom.
I thought it was like a copy of Robot, It's Robot, which I wasn't going to
Oh,
open.
speaking of CNN from the last presentation, their robots.txt file used to include like an admin interface.
You need to
like,
forward and
do
back
not
so you can
crawl,
sync the
like, slash
slides
admin.
on the video.
And then you get the like, slash admin and you would be presented with like a login to like.
Thank you for coming.
Spoilers, man.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, you lose when you slide.
Come on now.
Okay, I'm coming. I'll come then.
Go to the first one, hit F5.
There we go. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing so far? Hey, DerbyCon! Can everybody hear us okay? In the back? Okay, great. What we're here to talk about is Security Awareness Training Framework. This is a project that launched last year at DerbyCon, kind of by mistake, as you'll see, but I realized that not everybody was here at DerbyCon last year, so I wanted to show a little video of what you might have missed if you weren't here. This is Boris.
Really?
Bob really wants to be in you.
Can you hear it?
Bob likes you.
No.
What? APT, I'm an APT. I'm from China.
All right, we'll just skip
Yeah,
through that.
skip that.
So here's the message. So Boris's message last year, if you don't know by now, is don't click shit. And so, so do you want to go into a little bit about what you meant by that?
So I was pretty drunk last year. Not that that's anything new, but I kind of deleted half my deck, which was on security awareness. And essentially, the essential message of the presentation was that the users suck, right? They keep screwing us. We keep doing all sorts of crap. Everybody's getting on because that's just really cool when it works. Yeah, so essentially it was trying to get our users to stop. Not really. Yeah, I guess clicking on shit was a good message, but it doesn't work in the real world, right? As much as I'd like to say it, and I'm actually surprised it became a meme, but the essential thing is we need to train our users to stop doing bad things, not just stopping to click shit. And I'm sorry for my voice. Hopefully that'll get better as the day goes along. Yeah.
So here's the eternal problem is that, you know, Boris is sitting there on last year talking about don't click shit, don't do this, users are dumb, you know, blah blah blah, and it's like, well, are they dumb or are we just not communicating effectively with the users? And so this is how the Security Awareness Training Framework started up. We wanted to take quite an unconventional approach to it because we know that eventually users are going to click shit. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
And the reason is because they just don't know why not. So again, this is an effectiveness failure on our part, not on the end user's part. Accountants aren't supposed to know the ins and outs of security. You know, just like we're not supposed to know the ins and outs of budgeting and everything else, but you need a general awareness of it. But we continue to blame the end user, and so we finally got sick and tired of it.
That's just
Political views aside.
yeah. Clearly.
So, you know, we started asking the question, why isn't there a sustainable framework out there, and why aren't people tackling this at a more realistic level? And the answer is really simple. I mean, it's fucking hard. Nobody really wanted to do it, and as we started diving into it, you know, we saw the same thing, but at the same time, for a year now, we've been working on this message and honing our solutions and whatnot. So we're going to make one. So we wanted to start off with a couple of key questions. We wanted to frame it up so that we could say, what are the components that we need for an effective framework? You know, this includes everything from, you know, do we need to teach people about what a script kiddie is versus a hacktivist versus Gregory Evans versus whoever else? Or sorry, did I say that?
You had to name drop again.
Yeah. Okay.
He likes name dropping.
Make sure you don't get sued on that.
No, because it's okay. Because Boris told everybody that I had intimate relations with him last year. So
I didn't get sued, so it's okay.
yeah, it's okay.
So you're a couple, so you can talk about it then.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yep. The second question that we wanted to address is how do people learn most effectively? If we're looking at people from a type A personality versus a type B personality versus an int J versus an XJ, those kinds of things, audio, visual, kinesthetic learners, everybody has a different style. And the problem is that everybody's delivering 30-minute PowerPoints on every topic under the sun. And so we really wanted to take a look at it and customize our training so that when the end user gets their eventual security awareness exercise, whether it be a short blip or a long presentation, it's tailored to specifically what they need. And it's in a style that they have the most chance of success for. And the final thing is the feedback loop. How do we measure the success of the framework? It's a very large question within security in general, is how do we find out if what we're doing is working or not? And so those are the three questions that we framed our framework based on. But essentially it boils down to this. We want to bring personalized security awareness training to the masses. We're going to separate the content from the context. We have no interest in selling a product. We have no interest of allowing conflicts of interest. We just want to deliver the framework and let other people deliver the content and align with our framework. So essentially our vision is, I mocked up an urban spoon for security awareness here, but it's kind of that same message. You take your role, you take your topic, and you take your learning style, shake it up, and let's see what your training program looks like. In order to do that, we want to create a standardized markup language for content providers that we can tell the content providers, the people who are wanting to monotonize this thing, what it is that they need to deliver to us, and then the feedback comes back to them through a SOAP request or some other sort of response. Here's your training in a box, so to speak. And then we can do some cool things around that once we define some of those parameters, like banner ads for internet. So if we could set a cookie in the user's browser as to what their learning style is and how they like to learn and all that good stuff, then we could start flashing web banners that are specifically designed to them within their internet site and all other kinds of web apps. And then again, we want to be providing that feedback loop so we have measurable metrics on how effective we are with the training. Is it working or is it not? And not only do we want to look at that from an individual training opportunity perspective, but we also want to look at that from a global perspective. So as the framework continues down the road, we get feedback, we want to start honing in on what's working and things like that. And finally, we want to be technology agnostic.
So we started off pretty rapidly last year, and we all got it kind of worked up and got mad at Boris because he said don't click shit and blame the users. Sorry, Boris, but
I was drunk. I blame Bob.
So we really wanted, we really, a bunch of us really took off really fast, and we were gung-ho, and then this fucked up thing called real life jumped in and slowed everything down. So we moved along kind of slow. We're starting to pick up more speed now, but it was moving kind of slow. The main thing we're doing is we're getting a group of people together, and we are challenging the way that everyone has thought or been taught to think for the longest time. This group of people actually, I think most of us believe we can patch the human element, which so many people say you can't. It's going to take a long damn time. It is, I mean, we're talking, it could be a decade from now before we see anything from it. But we do believe that we can patch the human element, and that's what we're going to work towards. So this is a bunch of people that sort of got involved in the beginning. We say thanks to all of them, and hopefully they'll continue to work with it in it. So we did set up our basic web shell. Unfortunately, it's in PHP, so you can probably actually get a web shell. But we're trying to sort of gather all the awareness type content and put it into one place. so that we and others can actually find a little bit about it. Currently it doesn't necessarily say a whole lot about what we're doing. There is some information about it, but we're also trying to just gather a bunch of content and information, because a lot of this is about research of security awareness too. So this is kind of where our bread and butter and what we've been working on. You can't really see it on that very well, but we have our mind map, and we've taken our 3 basic questions and just started forking off of that. So we're looking at threat modeling a specific user, and so we know that you're an accountant. We know that your learning style, or the general learning style of accountant, might be visual, and we're going to then say, okay, so now we know also what threats that accountant's going to face more than likely, so that we can deliver not only the information that they need in a method that they're going to learn, but we can actually just start tailoring it all down. And we're starting to break everything out by actor, by threat, by different types, and right now we're just mind mapping the hell out of it.
I think an important point too is that we're also including non-professional, like grandmas and
oh, absolutely. This isn't supposed to be just for corporate. It's supposed to be for any home user, any user, just anybody who's using a computer. Because, these people that go home, grandma might, she probably doesn't know what she's doing, why she's doing it, but you may go and use grandma's computer, and you might actually access your corporate work environment for some fucked up reason, but you might. Or you VPN or whatever. So we have to train everybody, not just the people that you consider your users in your corporate environment. There's a lot more to it. So we want to make sure that we don't focus on one particular group. We want to focus on everybody and make it for everybody. So a lot of it has been research and taxonomy, and trying to group and get our groups right, our groups of people, so we can start doing our threat modeling and doing things like that. We're pulling from a lot of different data sources to try to figure out just what we need to do. I mean, right now we're in the intro stage. Do you have more to that?
Yeah, I mean, essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to form the taxonomy from the standpoint of, kingdom, phylum, all the way down. So we're trying to drill down from a user perspective or an actor perspective to be able to tell them, okay, if we got an accountant in North America who works in financial services, here's the core set of topics that they need to learn, versus somebody who may be a nurse over in Africa. They have a completely different need, and so we want to pull as much of that information as we can from somewhat authoritative sources, and then supplement with the grandmothers and the teachers and the preschoolers and all that good stuff, so that we have a good round set of information.
And we have the wiki, which is where we're gathering a lot of information. I think we have a slide later that says where it is or whatever, but we're just putting together, this is what we've done so far. We got our wiki, and we got a place to gather all our data in our mind map. Not much more to say about a wiki. Everybody has a wiki. I did hear that you're not a project until you have a wiki, so we ended up getting a wiki.
Yeah, so essentially what this presentation, the whole purpose of this is not only to provide you an update as to what we've done over the past year, but really to reach out to the community and kind of say, hey, we need other people to help frame this stuff up. And so, there's a couple ways right now that you can get involved. You don't have to be in security necessarily to do this. It could be anybody can get involved and provide their perspective, because ultimately everybody's the stakeholder. So, but the first thing that we need is we need some commitment from people. Right now we're meeting on a weekly basis for approximately an hour a day, and we have a working group where we talk about different things like the mind map and whatnot. But attendance kind of plateaued for a while there. And
you could just say stop showing up.
Yeah, Boris stopped showing up.
Yeah, Boris stopped showing up. So that's one of the things that we really need is we need help from the community to help build out content, provide us feedback and direction and ideas. And so that's one way that people can help. The other thing that we can do to help is support. Whether it be talking in the community, when somebody like Dave Vitale comes up and says that security awareness training is useless, we point them back to the framework and say, we don't think it is, and just get the word out in the community. And so, based on our presentation here, there's a couple things. This framework project is absolutely enormous in scope. We anticipate that this thing's going to be a good 5 years in the making. based on our current rate.
10 on our current rate?
Yeah, 10.
Computers will no longer be available.
And so the SATA framework, there's the link right there. We encourage everybody to go out and take a look at that and really dive in if you feel like it. Next thing is Brandon Miller and Bill. They have a talk later on. Please go check them out on the Teach Me track at 2 o'clock. And then finally, go take a look at littlehandlewis.tumblr.com for some kicks and giggles.
And you can follow Little Hand Lewis and make sure you retweet everything he does.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So let me pull up the mind map real quick, and then we'll.
We want to make this a little bit more interactive too. We can just sit here and talk to you, but that's not really going to be as effective as getting feedback too. So.
Right.
So I guess one of the things is, what do y'all see missing in security awareness? Go ahead.
And do you think it has value?
Electric shocks.
Electric shock.
Actually, yeah, I had a question about that, and I think the thing that's missing is metrics, right? So in traditional security awareness training, you train your people and you hope they do the right thing, and so we need to be able to measure it and prove to people who sign the checks that, hey, this is working, we need to continue doing it. So do you have examples of what you consider good metrics?
So no. So the question there was, do we have an example of what good metrics are? Because we have to measure our success. The answer is no. But one of the things we said at first is, and one of the things I strongly said is, I'm not going to participate in this unless we can find a way to measure it. If we can't find a way to measure it, it's a waste of my damn time. So metrics is probably, and now the problem with metrics is it's the hardest question to answer. In anything we do, it's the hardest question to answer. So that's like one of our core focuses. We'll get there.
We'll get you just, you can deploy it. You do an A/B test. One company uses the framework, one doesn't. You come back a year later, who's had less breaches?
So the problem with that is,
The framework doesn't actually have any specific tools aligned to it, right? So if for one company that the annual compliance videos, if they work, they work. Right? Every company will have a different. We'll use the framework as a baseline. We'll pick tools, different tools and methodologies along the framework. So that would be a great metric if they use the same tools, so we did apples to apples. But for apples to oranges, it wouldn't work. So we're looking.
well, the other main thing there is what's your baseline? How do you know that the people at company A weren't more technically savvy or understood a little bit more about security than company B? So we have to find a way that we can establish a baseline before we can even think of any metrics. So establishing the baseline is going to be our first step, is what do people actually know?
So the real Pat McCoy had a question.
Who?
The real Pat McCoy.
How are you guys attempting to inspire people to care about security awareness? And how are you handling the cultural elements, right? I mean, a small town in Alabama, I'm going to walk right in. But if I go to downtown Manhattan, they're going to have a totally different attitude.
So we have a. So can I take this?
Yeah, please do.
So I actually have a funny story from today. This is our second year at the conference. I just walked by a maid to walk into my room. No, nothing. Grabbed my laptop, walked out. Right? It's all about. It's not. It's more of a personal impact. So you have to resonate those risks with the individual users, and that's what we're gonna have to figure out. That's why we're doing surveys. We're doing surveys in different verticals, not just in the industry, in different verticals like different regions and so forth. That's why we need a lot. We're essentially going towards a data-driven model here. We just need to get all that data. But the framework is going to help us build that data. When we're asking exactly the same questions, how does someone in Alabama think, as opposed to someone in New York City?
But I think the framework is going to help a lot in that, because when you start thinking about an organization, the ability to say, this cashier is susceptible to these risks, she's going to be able to directly say, yeah, I see that stuff daily when she starts looking into the training. So it's going to draw her in more and give her more of an ownership of, if I can protect against this, I can help the company. It's all going to fall down to whether or not someone wants to have ownership in the organization they're working for, or if they're just there for a day job or whatever. But if you can target that to an individual, that's going to help them much more be able to tie in some 30-minute PowerPoint presentation.
Well, it's got to resonate personally, right? So, I'm sorry.
That's right. When we're talking about security awareness, we're talking about split-second decisions. We're not talking about expert-level knowledge of encryption algorithms or anything along those lines. We want the end user, whoever that happens to be, to make a split-second decision, say, should I be clicking on this link? Should I be going here? Should I be leaving my laptop out in the open? And that's how we measure success from a philosophical perspective. From an actual metrics perspective, when we start diving into the different actors and get that feedback loop enclosed, it shouldn't really matter whether you are in a large town in Alabama or a small town in Alabama versus Manhattan, because the personalized training that is going to be delivered to you will be relevant to that person.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So make it resonate, like you say, make it resonate more with the individual and inspire people to care.
Let me ask you a question. Who here likes guns? Right, raise your hand. I know everybody, right?
Nobody, right?
Who likes guns? Okay, what do you think is more effective to rob a bank? A gun or a picture of the bank teller's kid?
Picture of the bank teller's kid.
That's right.
So you make it resonate with them. That's what happens. You can get them to interact with make their own lives better, right? Because this isn't just about the organization. Organization, most people are working 9 to 5, right? We're the ones that work 20 hours. We give a shit, but most people don't give a shit about their jobs. But when you make it resonate with them personally, that's going to help us drive this. And that's the kind of metrics that we need. And you're right. We need the information before. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I missed your...
Are you trying to... I know you're trying to modify behavior. So in modification of human behavior, you usually have to have a very clear reward.
Yeah.
So in the framework, are you building in tactics to show reward for the individuals?
That's a good question. Can you repeat that? Because I am...
So
repeat the question, though.
The question was, are we building in rewards to incentivize the people that are receiving the training? It's a great question. It's not something that we've really thought about, but one of the things that we have thought about is there's some really, really good social engineers around, right? And we're always social engineering people to do the wrong thing. Why can't we use those same skills to social engineer the people to do the right things? So basically, instead of hacking them to give you access, let's hack them to prevent them from giving you access, and do it just the opposite way.
You thought of turning it into some kind of zombie video game that gives them rewards for...
I mean, if that's the way, if we come up and say that's the best way this person's going to learn, sure.
But wait, that's just it, right? The CDC did exactly that to target the pop culture
video game
dynamic. No, they released their zombie apocalypse survival guide.
Okay.
To specifically target the pop culture, the Gen Xers. Right?
But mind you, we're not going to be delivering content.
Right.
Well,
we're going to be delivering a framework that content providers can deliver content on.
So, but I had a serious question, in that so I had a real world incident in my company where an admin did something stupid, broke a security policy.
Did you tell him not to click shit?
And then a manager came in and said, okay, now I need you to develop a new policy and a new piece of paperwork for admins to sign that refer back to the old piece of paperwork.
And that's just it, right?
Saying that they give a shit. And that's not, I mean, so how would the framework do something about that?
So that's more of a technical control that you need to monitor. Well, here's a framework is only for the awareness, right? That's an enforcement consequence that you have to build into your policy. If they didn't ship can the guy, then you have a policy breakdown and you have an enforcement breakdown. That's outside the security awareness framework, right? That's more of like, first you got to monitor your admins because you might not have even known what he did, right? So there's a lot of other things involved, but that's more policy-driven enforcement. We're just doing the awareness. And that's, out of your security program, this is about this big, right?
Also, to address the thing on the behavior.
You talk too much.
To address the thing on human behavior, not as good as not as good as an actual reward is if you can lower the barrier to adoption. That's almost as good, but not as good. And so, in terms of tailoring the ability to deliver the information in a way that the user is going to receive it best, we're trying to lower that barrier so the content providers can do it in those individual ways and be that much more effective. But again, by lowering that barrier to entry to begin with, making it less complex so they don't have to do all that shit. We're trying to do that shit for them.
In the back?
What variables are you as far as tailoring the training? So, gender, age groups, industry, what kind of variables are you going to be looking to put in place? Tailor that specific training to those individuals.
Right. So the question was, what variables are we looking to keep track of in order to deliver to the message out to our content providers so that they can return a useful training topic? And the answer is really, right now we're looking down the occupational route, we're looking at the regulatory and compliance route, so things like PCI, GLIBA, HIPAA, all that good stuff. We're looking down learning style route, so if we can define if they're a visual learner versus an experienced learner, then we want to deliver that in that message. We also want to deliver their geographic location, so that we can deliver things that are only applicable, and obviously language is going to be a big factor in that. And then, right now, everything is on the table as far as what other variables that we need in order to give the content providers, what they need to deliver it.
The reason I ask is that, I hear a lot of people saying that users don't give a shit about security, and at least on some recent studies I've seen, it's not actually the case. Users do care about security. They understand it, at least in the general broad term concept. The problem is, especially on especially by an age level, younger falling into this category, it's they want the security tailored to them. So in other words, they don't want to have to give up using Facebook, Twitter, social media, but they want the security tailored to be fall in the line with that with that kind of aspect. So that's why I asked as far as the demographics, because at least in a couple of the recent studies I've read, they're finding a difference in attitude and age between age groups.
Right.
Younger and older. So.
I don't think it's that users don't care about security. I think it's that they care more about doing their jobs, and they care more about being helpful, which is what they've been trained to do, and they care more about gaining access to the tools that they need, right? Facebook is the tool, I guess. YouTube is
they understand the broad concept, not necessarily not understand the ramifications. They understand they want the broad concept. They don't want. You can ask 100 people. No one's going to say, "Oh yeah, I want my credit card, my social security number online. I want all that stuff online." No one's going to say that.
You could ask Alyssa D because she put it up there.
A lot of them don't understand the ramifications.
So let me add. Can I add something?
Sure.
So security awareness training is one of the pillars of our business. It's one of our core strengths. I think we do it really well. So I'm going to give away some of our secret sauce here, and I think it might be something you want to incorporate.
Spoiler alert.
What's up?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, kind of a spoiler alert. So, frankly, you cannot get valuable metrics out of security awareness training alone. You have to be able to test these people. So what we do is we set a baseline for social engineering, phishing, on-site, malicious media, get that baseline. Then we implement security awareness training. Then we measure again. And then we train again, and then we measure again. So it's actually, we want to measure people's actual responses to actual incidents.
Sure.
Right? So I don't know if you want to implement that in a framework and say that, you deal with delivering content, and then these other people deal with delivering, social engineering.
But that's just it, right? Social engineering is the validation, right?
Right.
Which we have built into the framework. It's the validation piece.
It doesn't even matter if they comprehend the training.
Sure.
As long as they react appropriately.
Sure.
Really
sure. Oh yeah, totally agree.
So the comment there was you have to iteratively test your people, baseline them, train them, exploit them, train them, exploit them, and train them, and so on. And I think that's one of the things in the framework we want to do is be able to give the right way for people to test, and at least advise them that you have to do this testing and iteratively. Otherwise, you really don't get good metrics. Especially when you have so much turnover in a lot of these companies, it's constantly moving. You might do a training, great. But did that person get it? And he's the one that clicked a link, or he's the one that gave you admin or whatever. So yeah, it has to be iterative training. And you have to test it.
Exactly. And I'll add one more thing, is to keep in mind that metrics, the point of metrics is really to just provide insight. Right? So it's not necessarily to make sure that you're trending in the right direction, but if you start trending in the wrong direction, why? Can you understand why? Like you're saying, is it because of a lot of turnover? Should we manage risk differently? Should we put certain employees over in a sandbox or safe zone. So that type of stuff.
Yep.
Not just,
Metric, definitely.
Everything you've mentioned as far as metrics, gathering information, typing users, all that sort of thing sounds exactly like what Amazon does for shopping metrics, and like almost identical. Just
so you're saying on the grid with what we're going to do?
What?
On the grid. Amazon's grid.
Yeah, it sounds exactly like that, just applied to rather than a sales model, a security model, and literally you can take the algorithm, adapt it to what you want, and automatically populate all of these different things.
Yeah, for the tool piece, but we just need the data to get there. You're right.
Yeah, well, gathering it is a 1.0 of using that.
If we had enough acceptance.
That's true.
Yeah, I was saying, how do you get people to adopt? And are you linking this to other frameworks like a COVID or any of those? Look at that.
So the question here was, how do we get people to adopt, and are we linking it to other frameworks?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of different ways that we want to measure this thing, and obviously it's a grassroots effort right at this point. I don't think the end users are really going to care about this kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, they're going to be looking more at the fruits of the labor, so to speak. And so we're looking at from an industry perspective primarily. If we can get people to get on board and adopt our ideas and say, okay, well maybe we want to get away from trying to do 30-minute videos and start doing 30-second videos and align it so that we can put together a modular type of an approach to a training, then we've won. Again, if we got feedback loops from people in the community that says, hey, this is a great idea, again, we're winning. And so hopefully that'll start the snowball effect, and more and more people want to get involved, write content, tell us what worked for them, what didn't work for them, et cetera, et cetera. And so we want it to snowball and grow organically from that perspective.
We need a higher Google score, basically.
Yeah, well.
we need to also figure out how it makes sense into the business side, right? Can we get people to deliver training lower cost, so it's cost less to the business because we're only getting a subset, and it actually is the subset that they need?
Right.
Can we find other ways? Because the only way we're going to really get it adopted is get the business to adopt it.
Yeah. The need is huge.
Oh yeah, the need is huge, but we have these vendors that sell these compliance-driven security awareness, which we all know fails. And that's what Untitled was talking about, right? That's only one program, and the only organizations that really use that program are compliance-driven organizations. Yes, Dennis.
Oh, here goes Dennis again.
There goes Dennis again. Dennis, you should come up here since you're part of the...
You're part of the framework.
Yeah,
you're part of the mic.
Also, to go back to Kate, one of the slides earlier was support, right? Because one of the biggest things that I've noticed is as an industry, as a community, we sit in these groups and we talk to each other back and forth. And so we're talking about security awareness and adoption, so on and so forth. Then we go back to our jobs and we don't go and reach out to the non-security people, non-IT people. We don't go present these things at those conferences that have nothing to do with security, that are not security conferences. So it's up to us to reach out to those folks in terms of supporting this and getting the word out on our own, and not just doing within the echo chamber.
So we should stop jerking each other off?
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. The mental masturbation, we can do that because it feels good, but
not all the time.
Cup and hold. No, but that's really the big thing. The adoption is up to us, because they're not out there necessarily seeking it, and sometimes they may be internally saying, wow, I wish I knew more about this, because I've heard about these hackers, blah, 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 but they're not reaching out because they don't have the knowledge of the sources. It's up to us to go out and be proactive and reach out to them instead of just to ourselves.
Yeah, we have to break out of the echo chamber.
So one thing I head up security on social media. So one thing I was trying to do to essentially bring it home to our CSRs was I did some live demos against their systems. I did a 20-minute quick lunch and learn. Hey, this is what you're facing. This is what you think phishing is. This is what phishing actually is. Blah blah blah. Real quick 20 minutes, but I wanted it to impact them. It got back to the executive team, so the executive team wanted me to do kind of the same thing. I essentially man in the middle of all their phones when they went to Facebook and popped up winning. That scared the shit out of them. I didn't use any advanced tools, right? Hey, this is what happens. You go to Starbucks, now I own everything you have, right? You need to get it to resonate with the users. Start small. Start with one team in your organization that cares about it. Do like a lunch and learn. right? We're not trying to help you build the framework, not the content. Content's everywhere, right? Look at set training, look at every one of the things we have out there. We have enough social engineers out there where you can get the content to build around it. It's essentially giving you the framework to do your awareness, and not just in the industry, to mom and pops as well, right? Because look at phishing, look at all the 419 scams. They need 1%. They don't hit New Yorkers, they hit like people in Alabama. And that's because the training isn't there.
Why y'all picking on Alabama so much?
Southern hospitality.
The only state that's working.
Right.
I don't know, Mississippi's pretty bad.
I'm really interested in the research.
Is his name Dennis too?
Are you Dennis too?
What's up?
Are you Dennis as well?
Mike Dennis?
Is your name Dennis?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm really interested in the research you've done on how people learn. Are you going to make that available on the website?
Yes.
Everything will be available. Cool. This isn't, so the question, so that it's on the video, the question was, are we going to be releasing the information about how people learn and stuff like that? And the answer is we're going to release everything. This is not going to be a closed environment. There's nothing that's going to be closed. Everything's going to be freely available to anybody who wants it.
That's right.
I mean, that's another one of the goals of the systems. And if we continue to wall shit in, we're going to continue to have the same problems. We have to break down the walls, let people get the information they need. Even if it's a small company who can't afford the training, at least they can see the framework and go, oh, maybe I can try to make my own shit around this. So.
How do you provide input to you all?
The question was, how do you provide input? Go to the website, email one of us, and maybe we'll set up something to let sort of the community
Yeah, we're going
talk.
to set up like a Google group or something, because we're not experts at anything, right? It's got to be community driven.
Right. Yeah, and the only way this will succeed is if it's community driven. Whether you're, no matter what your role or expertise is, we need to talk to everybody.
And we've also been looking at the SATF hashtag on Twitter, so if you can't find any contact information, you can do that as well.
On the learning style research, just following up on that, are you guys doing original research, or are you doing reviewing previous material, that sort of thing?
So the question was, are we doing, on the learning style, are we doing original research or following up on research that's already been done? I don't think any of us believe in reinventing the wheel. We just don't have time to reinvent the wheel. The wheel works pretty good.
And if that data is there, right? Because we have to get up there, right? Because there might be learning, there might be data already on learning styles, but how does that data apply to security awareness? Right, so there's a lot of factors that we're going to have to take into account.
And we'll read multiple studies, and maybe then we'll look at something and go, there's an interesting correlation here, let's research this correlation and do some original research.
And I'm not an MBA, I don't play one on TV. I don't, the business stuff, that's why we have everybody. Yeah, PhDs.
Yes.
Yeah, we call them doctor now.
Yeah.
Almost asshole.
Almost doctor.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. So yeah, the answer is like they said, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, but at the same time we want to leverage what's already out there and then add it with the security focus so that we're making the information applicable to our audience.
Anything else? We still got some time. Like, tell us we're idiots. Tell us we're doing it wrong.
Well, we knew that.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm saying, do you guys see anything missing in what?
So the statement was we're idiots.
Well, yeah, they heard him. And he works for a little bank.
I guess if we have time, I'll just reiterate one thing and ask for your opinion. Do you think that as part of the framework, you'll come up with a way for people to test their users? So it's not just about security awareness training, but you see that playing a role?
So the question was,
yes.
Are we going to have a way to test users in the framework? Yes.
Yes and no. Well, we're going to have high level. We're not going to go into detail. This is how you use SET or any of that crap, right? Yeah. Right. We're going to set up the test units and give you some recommendations for building those test units, but we're not going to actually build a test.
And if we don't do that, we can't measure, right?
Yeah, the methodology we'll give you, but we're not going to give you the actual concept of the testing unit test. It just doesn't make sense. Yes, Bill.
First of all,
did you just buy that from Hack 5?
I'm not an idiot.
Did you just buy that from Hack 5?
Yeah.
Okay, so Kaz is giving away. So Kaz is giving away those cables, and they stole his ideas. So enjoy. Okay. You just got raped. See, that's security awareness. He wasn't aware of it.
That's personal security awareness, by the way, which we also need to look at.
Yes.
It was by Shannon.
I got tickets too.
Can we get his contact information? Because I'd love to have him involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can get your
absolutely.
contact info, we can exchange. Well, you guys can exchange phone numbers because he's looking for more. If you want to get an email going, yeah.
On a personal note, the best way to learn not to click on shit is once you do it once, you don't do it again.
That's been
proven false.
Yeah.
Like if people click on shit, you clean their machine, tomorrow they'll click on shit, you clean their machine, the next day they'll click on shit.
Maybe in my case.
So
it's when they click on shit and it costs them $10,000, then they learn.
No, because the person that clicked on it, it didn't cost them anything.
Yeah, it's personal accountability.
It cost the business, the company. It cost the business. There's no personal accountability for clicking on shit.
It's like getting a ticket. They'll not do it for 6 months, and then they'll go right back to speeding again.
Well, it's still 5 over.
It's constant reinforcement. You got to train them, reinforce, train them, reinforce. Hell, you do social engineering, right? Have you seen them all? Like 80% of the people fail the damn test the day after you did your. Hey, we own you, right? You. I didn't get your name. I'm sorry.
Tyler.
Tyler.
Yeah.
Right?
So it really depends.
On what?
On how well you train them and what you train them on. So we focus on some very specific things that we
Sure.
want to change, and we do positive and negative reinforcement. So the gentleman that says
You need to come up here. So people, yeah, you need to come up here.
We need to go on tape.
So I'm Tyler. Yeah, I do a lot of security.
Come around.
Come around. Come up here.
What's going on, guys? Good talk.
That's good.
Go for it.
You guys can leave now.
So, absolutely. I'll take it from here.
Community driven. He had the idea, and it's community driven. We're not.
Yeah, it's not about
We're
us.
nobodies.
Yeah, well, not agreeing with that, but I'm saying the community thing. So, yeah, we make money off this, and I'd love to give away some of our special sauce, have people reproduce it. So, one of the gentlemen said something about, did you say negative reinforcement? You know, teach people it's bad. That's part of it, right? So when you teach a dog, they showed that the most effective way is to do positive and negative reinforcement. So we have tricks for, and again, not every company can afford to do this, but if we can get there, it'd be helpful. So not only do you teach people as soon as they do something that was bad, but the people who have effectively, you know, they get a spam email, they report it, or they delete it, they put it in their junk mail, you follow that up with you know, you grab those metrics and you meet with those people and say, hey, nice job. The person who did it best this week gets this gift card or whatever. Yep. It's positive and negative reinforcement. So,
and that's just it, right? The negative reinforcement, if you don't have policy-driven consequence, if the guy keeps doing it, and there's not an HR report or a write-up, your policies suck and your policy enforcement sucks. That's outside the scope of this, right? If they want to get owned on their personal level, that's fine. But in your organization, there are policies they need to abide by. So after 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, outside of the scope of this, but you do need to work on some policy enforcement techniques. If you can't fire the guy from a security perspective, you probably want to get up and find another job. Because if you can't enforce those policies, you got other issues.
and let me add one thing to what I was speaking about, which is the very ambiguous nature of how these types of compromises actually happen. So if you think about it, if somebody clicks a bad link, how do they really see the bad cause and effect with that? They might see it weeks or months later when their credit card data, you know, their credit card's used somewhere. So you have to have an instant way of teaching them that that's bad so that you change their knee-jerk reactions. And that's really what our training is about. It's focusing on specific things. Don't click things. Don't put USB drives in your computer. Don't let people tailgate you. That kind of thing. So if you can teach them right then that what they just did was bad, they're actually going to learn. So.
And most companies blame it on the guy that built the firewall.
And that's just it, right? And that's the whole security program. You still have idiots that think a firewall is your security, right? And I'd quit that job if I were you. Those are the type of companies that you just can't. Those are the type of companies. If you don't have management to change that mentality, it's just not worth it. It's not worth the headaches. It's not worth the stress. And actually, Casey's on the burnout, the security burnout program. Yep. I can guarantee there's correlations between the policy enforcement and management support and the burnout. It just doesn't make sense. That's why the average CISO rollover is 2 years.
Thank you for the plug.
Yes.
The Burnout Project.
Yes, the Burnout Project.
itburnout.org.
Yes, that's what PhDs do to get data. Which is security.
And tattoos and
tattoos.
This would be a good PhD thesis.
I honestly think he social engineered all of us into doing his final paper.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what I think happened. We're actually writing his thesis.
No conflict of interest.
I'm okay with that.
Feel free to use 2 of the 3 things I said.
Go ahead, but the real Pat McCoy. Have you ever touched a monkey in an inappropriate way?
Only once.
Only once. In Charlotte, in West Virginia.
So I've done SE gigs in the past, and the client actually took video footage of me tailgating them. They took video footage of me approaching people. Basically, they followed me around with their video cameras, watched me walking through their warehouses, watched me getting a ride on a golf cart, and going into all of their IDSs in this big warehouse. They incorporated that into their security awareness training, and it was very.
I remember this story.
Right. So at the end of the day, do you guys have any type of concrete, real-world examples that you're incorporating as like a knowledge bank into the framework that organizations can use as examples of, you know, bad stuff that happened because of lack of awareness that they can kind of drive the message home to their users with?
And that's exactly what I'm saying. That's the validation, right? We need a way to resonate. We need a way to gather the data of what resonates with each dynamic, and that's part of the framework to gather that data, right?
Are you guys like putting in video footage or screenshots? Or
But that might be just be one aspect, right?
Right.
We're looking for what works and what doesn't, but that might just be one data. Yes, we need the data, and maybe for that client, I remember you saying that the video didn't work.
Yeah.
But yeah, then that's what we're going to do. What works, what doesn't. That's part of the framework.
Right.
Right. Okay. We're not giving you the content, but we're going to figure out what works and what doesn't, and that's going to be part of the framework. Like for this type of user, this might work or whatever. Yeah. That's where we're doing all the data analysis.
So, I mean, I've been on clients and they can't even
I agree.
fathom the concept
Yep.
that someone would
Yep.
take advantage of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I recently had surgery, and I just threw on my jeans afterwards. I still had the IV thing with the gown. I threw on my jeans, threw on my sneakers, went outside, had a couple cigarettes. I walked through the employee entrance, which is in the back of the hospital, with the IV pump, and walked right into medical records 3 times in one day.
It's because they felt sorry for him.
Sure. But that's what I'm saying, right? For a hospital employee, if their security awareness program wasn't this could happen, then they're doing it wrong.
No, I agree.
How many places do you have to quit until you find one that actually do this?
So the whole thing is, so from that perspective, I've actually done this where you really need to talk to people in the company outside of the interview. Because in the interview, I've had jobs sold to me that, great. I had the COO was right behind me, and then he said, we're not passing policies, we're not compliant with day one. I was like, fuck you, I quit.
That's not the point of my question now.
I thought that's what you asked.
No, but that's not the...
How many companies you have to quit?
Thank you. More over, how many companies can we sustain in an economy that are not doing it the right way before all the other ones that are doing it the right way fall under the weight of all those other ones?
And that's where I think that, and I hate to be the guy who pulls the compliance card, but I really think once they start holding people personally accountable, I think on the organization side it's going to change a little bit, right? We talked about HIPAA yesterday, where HIPAA has sanctions for personal liability. I think once we start doing that across the board, it might change. Like personal accountability needs to be.
Separating that out. You're artificially saying that that's a breakdown in processes when every company out there has policies and procedures that if you do this, then you can be disciplined up to including termination.
Sure.
That's a common thing, but yet this happens everywhere regardless of this framework.
Because nobody terminates anybody.
What's that?
Nobody actually follows their own policies. That's outside of this.
A lot of people can't even detect what a policy violations have.
I agree, but that's outside of the framework.
I mean,
But it's inherent in the problem.
Yeah.
And I agree.
Sunday
I'm doing a talk on what the real problem is in security. This is about this much of it, right? The awareness training from my perspective, so to flip things around, I'm going to a point where I don't give a shit what the user clicks, right? It's your data, you're responsible for it, right? If they click shit and you get screwed, that's their problem. That's your problem, right? So to have a very minimum access and the data needs to be secure. But that's from a security problem. This is addressing the awareness problem, which is just get them to be smarter, right? It's just a very, very small piece of security, right? ITEL's article focused on that mandatory video compliance shit. That's why a lot of us went right off on him and you're an idiot, right? Because you can't just throw away security awareness because, it's just one piece of your security program, but we all know that compliance-driven video shit, we know it doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. It's once a year, here's your checkbox. It's just the whole checkbox security thing that most organizations do, and that's the bigger problem, but this is just addressing the smaller.
The framework is to try to help strengthen the biggest link in the chain, but it's still one link in the chain.
Yep. And the framework I'm releasing, the framework Dennis and I actually are releasing on Sunday would be take the weakest link and take the user, remove the user as the weakest link. Assume that they're stupid, assume that they're being compromised, protect your assets.
Any other questions? Running up against time, so.
Oh, I didn't think that was going to happen.
Yeah, me neither. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.